Hello everyone, this video is a walkthrough of a couple of questions related to the integumentary system from our CPT manual. I will not be doing any ICD-10 in this video, but there are some references to diagnosis codes. So you may see those. I will first present the question, and then I will switch over to the document camera. If you'd like to pause the video then and see if you can find the answer, that's great. Otherwise, you can just walk along with me and we will figure it out together. All right, so this is the first question we're going to look at. Excision of a 2.5 centimeter malignant lip lesion and 2 malignant lesions of the skin of the chest, each 1.5 centimeters in diameter. So we have an excision of 3 separate lesions here. 2 of them are on the chest. 1 of them is on the lip. Whenever we are coding for lesions, we are going to start with the most resource intense lesion. That's going to be our primary service. And so that will be our 2.5 centimeter lip lesion. That's obviously going to be in a more delicate location, and it's our largest lesion. And then we'll have 2 lesions on the chest. So those are going to be less severe. Obviously, they're all malignant, so they're all very severe, but our 2.5 centimeter lesion is going to be the most resource intense. Okay, so this is what you're going to be looking for when you break down this question. You're going to have 1 code for the lip lesion. And just keep in mind that it's malignant. Remember, we have benign and malignant codes in our integumentary system section in our CPT. And then we'll have 2 codes for the chest lesions. Okay, so we'll have 2 separate codes. Obviously, it's the same amount or the same size and the same location. So it's going to be the same code listed twice or with an X2. Okay. Additionally, for this service, we are going to have a modifier. Now we'll show you how we find this modifier, but it is wise to add them whenever we are going to have multiple procedures done in the same surgery setting. Okay, we're doing 2 separate sites. They're not related. Yes, they're the same kind of service, but it's not one giant lesion going from the face to the chest. It's 2 separate locations where we're doing 2 separate kinds of excisions. Okay, so a modifier would be appropriate in this circumstance, and I will show you how we add that, where we find the information for it. But I did want to put a little note here that it's the same procedure, it's a different site. So what we're going to do is we're going to, as always, list the resource intense procedure first. That's that lip lesion. And then we'll add the modifier to the subsequent code. So whatever we're going to list next. So that's going to be our chest lesions. Okay, so I'll show you how we do that here in a second. But I am going to switch over to the document camera. If you want to pause right now and try to find the answers, that would be great. Otherwise, just follow along with me. All right. Okay, so here we are with our CPT manual. We've got tabs, we've got our pens and highlighters and all of that. All right, so these are the 2 things that we are looking for. Well, 3, I guess, because we're going to look at a modifier too. We're going to look for a malignant lip lesion and a malignant lesion of the chest. And these are the sizes that we're looking for. Remember, we're going to list this code twice. So there's 2 ways that we could do this. If you get this question on the national exam or some other kind of project or workbook or something like that, and you have no idea what section you're even looking for, you can come to the back of our manual and you can look. Oh my goodness, I think I flipped right to the right page. Yeah, so you can look for skin, because we do know, hopefully, that this is a skin lesion. And if you had no idea if that's in the integumentary system, or what, that's totally fine. You can come here to page 1227 here in the index. There's skin, and then we would look for excision, which is the actual procedure that we're looking for. And if we look here, we come to destruction. Remember, we're not doing destruction. We have excision. Okay, excision is right here. And then we have lesion and benign and malignant are listed there. I don't know if you can read that. There we go. So that would direct us to the right codes, okay? And those are the sections we'd be looking at. 11, and we're looking at malignant this time, so it'd be the 11600 right here, okay? Now, if you do know you are in the integumentary system, which hopefully you do, you can just go to the table of contents. Remember, for the integumentary system, the table of contents is at your surgery tab. It's not actually at the integumentary tab, but it's just a couple pages before. So here we have skin, and here is excision of lesions, and we have, again, benign and malignant. So we are looking for malignant lesions, and that's sending us to page 103. So we will go to page 103. Alrighty. So here is the section that starts malignant lesions. We are going to look in here. And we remember the way that this is set up is all the codes are very similar. They are separated out by location, and then they are indented by size. So we are going to be looking for a code that relates to the lip, the face, something like that. Okay, so our first main code here is trunk, arms, or legs. That's not going to work. Then we get lesions including scalp, neck, hands, feet, genitalia. That is also not going to work. Okay, and then 11640 is excision of malignant lesion, including face, ears, eyelids, nose, lips, and then it's 0.5 centimeters or less, and we are looking for 2.5. So this does include lips, so that's going to work for us. In case you can't see it, bring it down here. And then we are just looking for a code for 2.5 centimeters. And over here on the next page, you'll see right up at the top. So it's the same code. It's this code right here, excision of malignant lesions for face, ears, eyelids, nose, lips. And then the size is the only thing that's different here. So this is one of our indented codes, and it's for a diameter of 2.1 to 3.0. So 2.5 fits in there. So that's going to be our first code. Okay. And then we're going to look for, it's the same procedure, obviously. The excision of malignant lesion, but it's on the chest, and we're looking for 1.5. So we'll go back here, and our first code over here will include the trunk. So that'll include the chest as well. So this would be the right parent code here, 11600. And then we are going to look for 1.5, or a code wherein 1.5 fits. And that would be right here, 11602. And remember, this code we are listing twice. So you could either list it like this, or you could list it like this. All right. So those are the two ways that we could do it. All right. So then I mentioned we do need a modifier. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the modifier that we're going to use, don't worry, there's ways we can look it up. So you could first come here to the front. This is a great little cheat sheet, but you'll see it just lists what the modifiers are. It doesn't provide any further information. If you need further information, what you can do is you can come back here, very back, and this is Appendix A. And Appendix A is going to include the information on the modifiers, okay? And there are a lot of modifiers, but this is where you can get all the information about when it's appropriate to append them. All right, so we can look through everything. It can get really complicated, or I can just tell you. So I'm just going to tell you. The one that we're looking at is multiple procedures. Okay, that's modifier 51. I already believe I posted a video from YouTube about modifier 51. So if you haven't watched it, I would go back and watch it. But I would read through the description here. I would definitely watch that video as well. But if you're ever going to use a modifier and you don't know when to add it, you don't know what to do with it, you can come back to this appendix and figure it out, okay? And so what is good about this modifier is it tells you when and when not to add it. So it does tell you, you can, this is when multiple procedures other than E&M, so you wouldn't use it for E&M, physical medicine and rehabilitation services, or supplies are performed on the same session by the same individual. So that would definitely qualify what we're talking about here. The primary procedure service should be reported as listed. So that means we're not going to add it to the primary service, right? So this 2.5 centimeter one, we're not going to add the modifier to this one. The additional procedures or services may be identified by appending modifier 51. And it should not be used for an add-on code. Luckily, we're not using any add-on codes. Remember, add-on codes have the little plus sign in front of them. We didn't see that with any of these. So the correct way to report this is going to be 11643, 11602, 51, X2, okay? So that is a correct way to report it. Obviously, you can list it twice this way if you wanted as well. But this is the easiest. I think it's the cleanest way to do it. So let's go back and check our PowerPoint and make sure I did that all correctly. (11,643, 11,602, 51, X2. Okay, so we got it. So if that doesn't make any sense to you, that's okay. Go ahead and post something in the discussion. Let me know which part you found most confusing, and we can definitely talk more about that. But I do want to move on to a report style question, since I know these are usually the trickiest. So let's go ahead and get into it. So this is a report. This is a very standard looking report. It's what you might be familiar with. So we've got a preoperative diagnosis, we've got a scar on the parietal region, so that's going to be on the scalp. Postoperative diagnosis is the same, it's still a scar, nothing's changed. Then we have a 3x1 elevated scar in the right parietal region of the scalp. The surgical procedure is going to be the excision of the scar of the scalp. The reason why I wanted to kind of talk about this is because scar is a confusing term. You might not immediately know where to find the excision of a scar. Lesion is another appropriate word for scar. So it's going to be a benign lesion, okay? And then we have a surgeon's name, a description of anesthesia, and a description of the procedure. And we are going to look at a few, and then the pathology report is that it is benign, okay? So these are the main things I wanted to look at before we get on the get to the actual CPT manual. So we are looking at the excision of a scar on the scalp. It's 3x1, so we're going to use the widest portion. as our size for this lesion. And you see even here, they do mention that it's a lesion that was excised, and then also that it's benign, okay? So these are kind of the things that you want to pull out when you start looking at these reports, which I know can be really overwhelming. The other thing I wanted to note here is that we do not have an extensive repair. We don't have any documentation about deep structures, bone, anything like that. So this is still going to be that simple repair that is included in the excision code, okay? So anytime we do an excision, a simple repair is assumed to be included because you're not just going to leave an open wound. But if we did have a more complicated repair, then we would add on a code for the more complicated repair. But there's no discussion about deeper structures, bone, any other associated complications. So we're just assuming that it is a simple repair. So this is the CPT code that we're going to look for, the excision of a benign lesion of the scalp, 3 centimeters, simple repair. If you are looking for the ICD-10 code for this would still be considered a neoplasm. It's just a benign neoplasm of the skin on the scalp, okay? A scar is technically a growth. It's a raised area. It's not naturally occurring. Well, it is naturally occurring in that people get them all the time, but it's not a normal part of the human body. So it is a new growth on the skin of the scalp, and it's benign. Okay, so if you are looking for that, that's what you would find it. But I am just focusing on the CPT today. So we are going to look in that manual for a benign lesion of the scalp. Okay, so let's go look at our manual. All right, so again, if you didn't know where to look, you could go back into the index and look under skin and excision and lesion and all of that. But I'm not going to walk you through that part again. All right, there we go. So again, we're going to go to our integumentary system, table of contents, which is at the surgery section. Again, skin, we're going down to excision, and this time we are looking at benign lesions. And those are on page 101. Okay. So our benign lesions section starts here. Here's all of our great illustrations that talk about how we figure out margins, what diameter we use. We know we're using the widest margin, and also that our simple closure is included. So we are looking for 3 centimeter excision of a benign scalp lesion. So if you want to pause now and look for it, this would be a great time. But otherwise, just follow along. So again, we will look at the main codes, and then we will find the indented code that fits the size that we're looking for. So the first code is, again, trunk, arms, or legs, just like in the malignant lesion section. It's the same codes, just one is malignant, one is benign. So 11420 is the next main code. These are all indented. And this one does include scalp, neck, hands, feet, and genitalia. And we are looking for 3 centimeters, just going to be right down here, 11423. Okay. So this is the code that we're looking for. And we have no other information. We know it's a simple closure. We know this is the only procedure that's being performed. Obviously, you would need to have an ICD-10 code if you were fully coding this, but this is the only service that we're going to, only procedure that we are going to be coding. So let's go back and look at our presentation at the PowerPoint and see if we got that right. 11423, we got it correct. So the real point about this, this question walkthrough is when we look at something like this is so overwhelming, right? This is just so much information. And I know that this can be really intimidating, but really it's the same thing that we're doing in our regular questions that we're working through on the national exam or in workbooks or homework or whatever. It's the same thing. There's just more information there. We just have to be adept at figuring out and pulling out the most valuable information out of these big long paragraphs. Okay, location, size, type of procedure. That's the information that we want. And then when we know more about which section we're working in, like we're working with excisions of lesions, we know we need to know if it's benign, if it's malignant, what kind of repair was done. Okay, so the more familiar you get with the structure of reports, the more comfortable you're going to get with them. The more familiar you are with the section that you're working in the CPT, the easier the reports are going to be. So it's just practice, practice, practice. Okay. So those are the only two I'm going to walk through right now. If you have other questions, concerns, feel free to post about them in the discussion. All right. Thank you all. Bye-bye.